false headlines, I'm going to give you that same courtesy
Thank you.
because
We need it right now.
things are so bad that if I were to do that, I would say like you wrote, everybody calm down. Things are going to be just fine when Ty Jerome gets back. But you wouldn't write that, And again, things are just too sensitive right now to joke. That was embarrassing last night.
That was a bad performance. That one hurt because it was what looked like a break in the schedule. Like, honestly, this is the truth. I see Jason, I think, has my story from last night pulled up.
There's a key word in it, Drew. I want to quote you. Mess.
Yeah, it was a mess. It was a mess.
Mess.
I found myself like not even knowing what to say last night, and realizing that no one really wants to read that.
Look at my questions for you, yeah. Drew Hill. I have 10 questions lined up. There's one word.
Mess.
Mess.
Yep,
I quoted you.
That's what the season's been. That's especially what it was last night. It was a disaster. We can take it up from mess. It was a disaster.
Yeah, it was. And look, they were an 8.5 underdog at close. It was obviously that's probably the smallest number they'll have probably the next two games is as an 8.5 point dog. But that doesn't preclude you from competing in the game. And that's the part that is the most disturbing. And I think it's what obviously Thomas Isolo said after the games, like, we just didn't, we got out rebounded by a team of dwarves, basically, is what he said. Like, they're all small and we got out rebounded and out hustled.
It was a mess the Celtics started 2 players with fewer than 20 career starts yesterday. They're 5-7 going into the game. Even if they're 8.5 point underdogs, that's a game that's gettable, like, clearly, because Boston is not very consistent.
Right.
And they just no-showed the game. I mean, the problem is too, and we don't need to be in the business of making excuses for last night because not putting forth a good effort or hustle is inexcusable. But offensively, they have no threat when Ja's not out there on the ball, because especially without any other point guards, no Ty Jerome, no Scottie Pippen, no Ja, they're just throwing the ball around the perimeter last night and shooting threes, and outside shooting has been a weakness all season long. And you're 10 for 43 last night. I mean, just not even close to good enough from three. So, and that's going to be a problem. You would expect that some of these guys are going to shoot better from three over a longer stretch of games, but not enough to make it significant. And so this team has a lot of problems right now, and we could spend probably the whole 3 hours of y'all's show going through them, but we don't have that time.
Does the fact that how hopeful are you that Zach Edey's back by Cleveland? Can we just read it in the fact that he got listed as upgraded to doubtful, and hopefully this next one's questionable? Are you with how desperate things are? The fact they took him on the trip, right? Jess, I think it was telling us, Jessica Benson, and it might have been you, Drew, or maybe you told me first, but they're coming home before San Antonio, so they didn't have to take him on the trip. Seems like he's close. How hopeful are you that he's back, at least for Cleveland?
The last I heard when I inquired about this was likely but not certain, the Cleveland game. So likely, meaning good chance he's going to play in the game. Not 100%. That was not 100% set as of yesterday. But I think he's likely to be on the floor when
so
they play Cleveland. Yeah.
I ask you that to ask you this. Chances we see Ja back out there. One of the things happened last night, KCP gets hurt. Now, maybe that facilitates Cedric Coward into the starting lineup, and you got Zach Edey out there. Maybe we're looking at a different starting lineup by Cavs. I'm trying to get out of this, so I'm trying to let you steer me if you think that's a good possibility.
I think that Zach Edey is going to probably be limited when he gets on the court, as any player would be that's been off that amount of time. Like, we don't need to overplay that. Like, of course he's going to be limited to some degree.
KCP doing. I mean, that's.
But yeah, and KCP's been dealing with an elbow for a while, and then it obviously got aggravated in the game last night. Yeah, no, I at one point in the game, I wondered last night, are we going to have the best 5 Grizzlies players, available on the court together, or what you would expect the starting lineup to be on opening night? Is it going to be out there on Saturday for the first time? That would be, Ja, Jalen Wells. At some point, we thought Cedric Coward may become the starter. Cedric Coward, Jaren, and Zach Edey. I mean, that's a starting five that actually you would expect can compete. But the way that this team has played this season, they have not been able to find consistent energy and effort on a night-to-night basis. So we'll see what happens. Everybody was wanting this injection of life into the team as some of these guys come back. It's just much harder to buy when the team's trending in the wrong direction all season long and maybe had their worst. I mean, the Heat loss was really terrible, but it was early. This Boston loss, I would say, is probably
it's not even close.
Oh yeah, that's the low point.
Because now what's going on behind the scenes. Like, it's obviously all out there on Front Street. Everybody's regressing.
Some of what's out there is just misinformation. It is. I mean, like I try to combat some of the stuff online, but
what do you think is like the biggest piece of misinformation?
The Grizzlies were not trying to hire Mike Brown or Mike Malone. That was never a thing. And Ja and Jaren advocated for Islo. They have the right to change their mind. There's nothing wrong with, like this happens all the time where players and coaches have a beef that they have to get through. I'm not suggesting that like anything was wrong, but like it is wrong to say that the Grizzlies were like, or that there was a push for these coaches. There was never a push for those coaches. It's misinformation. It's just not true. And so, but like with anything, and I'm a fan of teams too. I'm a fan of Alabama. I'm a fan of the Chicago Bears, right? And when I'm unhappy with the Bears and I would see things out there that I'm not attuned to because I'm not in Bears media world or behind the scenes, like if I'm inclined to believe it, I will just believe it.
Right.
I think there's some of that happens. It's just that's fandom, right? Exactly. So I'm not blaming anybody. I'm guilty of it too, but that's just that part of it is just it couldn't have been further from the truth. It's just not true.
Yeah, I just think it's a really gnarly situation. Everybody on the team is regressing, right? That was here yet last year. Jalen Wells does not look like an NBA starter right now. I'm not saying he never can again, but he doesn't. Jaren. I already went on my rant about Jaren. Ja's numbers, he can't make a three. Santi is like very inconsistent, which I guess that's kind of always.
Santi's actually been better.
Has he been better?
Okay, last night. So
7 straight games.
All right, the European is
he's like the one guy.
Something good.
Yeah. That's what I wrote last night. I was like, we're looking for small things, like anything. Let's just try to pick something out of this game that's positive.
Yeah.
And Santi in double figures, 7 straight games.
That's going to really go over well with the fan base. The only person that is having a good year is the European.
Thank you for coming to work. That's all we're doing.
At least somebody showed up last night.
No, you're right. And also, like, I do think, we mentioned, Zach Edey and Ty Jerome. Also, no Scotty.
I mean, there's
Scotty was an absolute he is a dog.
Scotty is also a 40% 3-point shooter last year.
That's right.
Ty Jerome 40% 3-point shooter last year. Now you got guys out there that can't make a shot that are probably a little bit better than their percentages so far, but that doesn't change the situation. They're not so much better than their percentages that it's gonna make a big.
I mean,
difference.
Scotty scored 30 in the game 4 against the Thunder. Like, he's the only one whose balls dropped in that game for the most part. Like, I put it that way, but like I that was something I'm like, all right, that the Grizz are missing that. There is no question about that.
For sure.
I'm not saying that he would have been the difference last night, but like when we start talking about these non-competitive games, like I do think when you put him in the game, he's a defibrillator in some way.
There's someone else that can put some pressure on the rim.
100%.
Without Ja and without Scotty, there's no one that can put pressure on the rim.
So, okay. Is the rope being let go of? Is that what we're watching 13 games into the season? It feels like it's sort of being let go of, but I don't want to people accuse me all the time of overreacting.
Well, yeah, we live in a what have you done for me lately league. I think that the two things can be true at once here. One is that if you were to grade Islo on the job he's done so far, you would not give him a very good grade because it doesn't feel like the team's been bought in.
Right.
That is true.
Right.
I also think that the Grizzlies maybe more so than people would expect, have moved past some of the drama post Lakers game, but it doesn't help that Ja and Jaren just simply aren't playing well right now. They're capable of playing better than this, right? And some of the frustration is just that inward, right, towards themselves of like, we are better players than this, and we are not playing well right now. So all the frustration is not pointed in other directions. Some of the frustration is pointed towards themselves, and you've heard some of that in these post-game sessions. Like, Jaren's got to be better than he was last night. He's got to be. He is a better player than that. We know that. We've seen it, right? Ja is a better player than what we saw in the Knicks game and what we saw in the Thunder game. He's a better player than that. So while some of this is a lack of buy-in, and the effort element of this is certainly, some of that falls on the responsibility of the coach, it's also the responsibility of some of these players to play up to their potential. We just haven't seen it. We haven't seen it.
I agree.
It's a multitude of bad things happening at one time that creates, to use the word again, this mess that the team is now in.
Well, I would just throw this at you. We've done it so openly about Ja, and I think most of us have agreed. And we had to address it because Ja kind of opened up Pandora's box, and you had the whole NBA saying the Grizzlies should trade Ja, like we were back there. And so we all said, well, you would get nothing in return for him. That's part of the reason why you don't do it. Many of us said that. I'm curious, and I'm not suggesting it ever gets here or would go there, but what's that conversation like? Is it similar? Is it similarly difficult in terms of unloading a Jaren? If you looked at him and thought, okay, what would the return look like for him? Is it similarly low? Do you think, well, I mean, you're talking about a former DPOY. You know, a lot of teams might look at him and say he completes us at that price. I don't know. I mean, I don't, I'd have to pull out everybody's, how close they are to the apron and all that. But I'm just curious what you think generally the haul would be like, as compared to what we've said would be pretty much nothing you want for Ja.
Well, to me, the concern with Jaren hasn't necessarily even been the offensive stuff, which everyone tends to focus on. It's that he hasn't been the same player he's been in the past defensively.
Yep.
And that certainly is a negative mark on his value. I do think, we all talk about Zach Edey being able to clean up Ja's misses and set screens and how exciting that. Like, I honestly think Zach Edey's biggest impact is going to be on Jaren.
What he does for Jaren.
Because the amount of space he can eat on the floor defensively that allows Jaren to sort of roam and be a weak side helper where he's been super elite over several seasons. He hasn't really had the opportunity to do that all that much this season.
Yep.
So I do think that Edey is going to help Jaren quite a bit. I think there's reason for optimism for Jaren defensively with Edey coming back. But just generally speaking on the trade stuff, I actually formulated some thoughts on this, and I may end up writing something at some point. The first thing with this is that it's too early for any of this to happen, because any player that just signed a contract this last offseason can't be traded until January, or in some cases December. So the Grizzlies aren't going to do anything right now because it doesn't make sense. They don't have their full multitude of options to do something right now. I think that's sort of what people don't necessarily understand. And I get it, like when the Grizzlies are the news because Ja takes a riff with the coaching staff public, everybody will talk about this.
Yep.
But the reality of it is it doesn't really make sense for the Grizzlies to do anything until January, right? So let's keep that in mind here. As much of a mess as the season has been, as weird as it's been, as off as it has felt, the same question is facing this team now that was facing this team when the season started. The question was, do you believe Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson are two stars capable of taking this team to championship contention? That was the question. And the season was going to be about evaluating that and evaluating the pieces that you can put around them. That's been derailed by a lot of injuries so far. We got to give it time to at least see that. First of all, we haven't seen any of that yet because of the situation that the team has been put in. And I think when it comes to Ja specifically, not to go off of Jaren and go towards Ja, but like there is
that's what y'all love to do.
There's that's what everybody talks about.
I mean, everybody
talked about trading Ja, but with
with Jaren's like, oh no, he's
No, I know. I think if you're gonna unload Ja, then
I mean,
at some point,
Jaren's a guy that you could trick a team into giving you actual value for.
well, yeah. But my point is this: is like with both of those guys, there's an emotional value that exists with the two of them, especially with Ja because of the shoes and the highlights and the loyalty that both of those players have shown to the city. When there's this stereotype across the NBA that the star players want to go play in LA and Miami and in the big markets, New York, and those guys have been loyal to this place. And so I think the fans are very loyal to them back. So there is emotional value that those two players create for your fan base. They put butts in seats, right? And
I don't think
the
Jaren
Grizzlies
puts butts in seats. That's me.
not to the same level of Ja.
I think
obviously,
if you tell me that Ja's out, Jaren's going to be I'm not going. Like that's just me. But I mean, maybe you're right for some people.
There are people that are Grizzlies fans that just support the team in general,
for sure.
Right? Like
for sure.
if they're both
it's
out,
more about
then
that,
it's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
But my point, where I'm trying to get to with this is like that emotional value should matter to the Grizzlies front office, but the Grizzlies front office also has to take into account doing what is best for the basketball on the floor, and they have to answer that question. The question of, do you believe that those two guys can be star players on championship contending teams? They eventually have to answer that question. They may not have to answer it until the trade deadline or into next offseason, but eventually they're going to have to answer that question.
Yeah.
And if the answer to that question is no, and those guys aren't playing like that right now, let's be honest. Those guys are not playing like it right now.
Yep.
There's time for this to get fixed and time for this to turn around. But that's what they eventually have to land on. They have to answer that question. And
I think you're hitting on it, which is like we are probably in the process of
figuring that out, right?
And the answer is certainly shaded toward no. I mean, we could sit here and we can wait for all the pieces to. First of all, it's the NBA. It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to have, as we know very well, you're never going to have the perfect complement of players available. I mean, somebody misses a game in the NBA every single night. And so if we're sitting around like Goldilocks, just waiting for the porch, oh, it's too cold, oh, it's too hot, we have to wait for it to be just right, it's just never going to happen. That day's never going to come. So we're going to have to make our best guess and our best educated guess. And I think, again, it's too soon this year.
You got to give it some time to play out. We just talked about it.
John and
Jaren are better than this. They are better than this. They are better than the way that they have played this season. We know that.
Or they have been better. I don't know if we can necessarily say definitively that they
will at some point you have to decide if these things that are going on with them are these speed bumps or are these trends, right? Because Ja's changing his game right now.
That's why
he's not attacking the rim.
Is paid the big bucks.
Right. He's going to have to make that decision. And like I think he's going to be afforded the chance to make that decision. I know a lot of he's come under fire too, the same way Isolo has. I think the Grizzlies are going to let him make that decision. And it's a big decision to make, it may not come until February, may not come until the offseason, but the clock is now ticking on that. Because if this was a no-brainer, guys, this was a no-brainer, and you said the answer to that was yes, you could have extended Ja Morant this offseason. You didn't do it. So
and people thought he would.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Cool. I think
that was a lot. Sorry.
Well, again,
I think it was a fair assessment.
Well, I wasn't suggesting with the question. I thought I said it to start that I think it's time to do that. And you and very thoroughly spent a lot of time on why it's not time. And I agree with that. My question, though, was like we've done with Ja, what you think of if you ever did get to that time, what a return for Jaren might look like, and if that value is high or low.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and you kind of hit a lot of stuff for us. I'm not.
No. To be honest,
but if not, I mean, if it's something you don't want to address, that's fine.
Well, no, the reason that I did that was honestly because I spent a lot of time writing it yesterday and thought it through, and then decided that it wasn't time to say that, so then I didn't do it.
Save it. No. Seriously, because I know I want you to write that first. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you to give away.
Well, no. To answer the Jaren question, though, I do think he would get returned. Yes, I think he'd get a good return. Yeah. Because there's elements to Jaren or to Ja that don't exist with Jaren.
It is a big contract.
Some of the off the court stuff. Yeah, but it's a huge contract.
But you would tell who I think a contender would trade for Jaren.
Somebody would say he's the missing piece we need.
That's what I was,
Whereas I do not believe. I know Miami keeps getting brought up for John Morant. Maybe maybe Pat Riley is that guy, and he's willing to say I'll fix him. But,
Minnesota is an interesting one too. But again, it's like
I get it.
I'm trying to be careful here because
position.
I'm trying to be careful here, Jason, because this is a sensitive situation, and I as I just said,
Understood.
I think there is value to the emotional attachment that those guys have to the city.
I couldn't agree more.
I agree with you.
And I think there would be serious backlash if they decided to do something like that.
Well,
so I'm trying to be sensitive to that because I think that stuff does matter to me, in my opinion. But whether that's going to matter to the franchise, I don't know. But I think it matters.
My counter to that would be if the longer that this goes on, right, with this disengaged, pouting, both guys are not, producing. I do think the fan base will, in a way, turn on those. I mean, it's a
well, right now the fingers are pointed at Eastland.
Oh no, but at some point they won't be. At some point it'll be come on the play. I mean, this is the NBA, right, where you are paid handsomely to produce, regardless of whether or not you agree with the coach or not. I mean, and I don't know what the Grizzlies' plan is with Isolo, how committed they are to him. Like, we don't really have any direction on that. It seems like fundamentally they like him. I mean, they went out and got him and paid him and all those things and hired him and all those things. So they're gonna have to grit and bear it and produce. And if we're gonna sit here and we're gonna play at 4-9 pace, every 13 games, I do think that political goodwill can fade pretty quickly, if the guys aren't, going out there and playing. Like, if we get more performances like that one from Jaren last night, for example.
I mean, maybe, but they've been so loyal to this place. It's like that's the thing, Ja's been immensely loyal to Memphis, and so I think people are going to give him a lot of loyalty back. I don't know how you feel.
Dude, he's a star, man. You don't trade generational stars, man. You put pieces around that star and you address his flaws. With Jaren, it's and you've talked about it because this is what it is, figuring out if you can win with those two guys. But as you know very well, the issue with Jaren is it's really going to have to be 3 because he's so chained to needing the specific type of way of winning with him where you need that big center. And that's the thing. So you better have that guy. It puts so much dependence now on that center position, and it just ties you up. Evan Mobley's making big boy money now. He's blocking shots. He's rebounding. He's past Jaren.
Yep.
He's averaging more points. And that's who's a max big, and you look at him and you say, you know what, you're getting your money's worth.
Mm-hmm.
But with Jaren, you got to get the money's worth, and then you need the Zach Edey, the Steven Adams next to him. And so it's just he's flawed both flawed, but flawed in a way that ties you to something else structurally. Man, I can put 3-and-D guys around Ja. You know what I mean? To address those things, so long as he's there, because availability's one of those flaws for him.
Right.
But with Jaren,
and so long as he's the same level of player we saw last year in 2 or 3 years, like that's what you're projecting, right? That's what matters.
Because he's not the same guy right now, and I don't, I think he still is that. I'm hoping that he can still be that. He's not attacking the same way, but I think there's still that superstar in Ja. We saw it. We saw Call 12 twice this year.
Yeah, right. New Orleans and Phoenix. Great.
We called 12. He looked damn good.
Yeah, he did.
So I know what that does and what my money is getting there. I think you're hitting on something with they didn't do the contract extension. They're leaving themselves some flexibility. Mm-hmm. But the guy, to me, and especially if the return is going to be higher, Drew, and I'm not trying to get here ahead of time, and I didn't mean to put you in an uncomfortable position.
No.
But that's the point. To me, if the higher returns for maybe, and you're chained to having to have that center, maybe you can find a different way to win with more pieces.
Yeah.
In a way that's more modern.
Well, my counter to that, and I agree with it. I mean, it's just true.
Just asking the question, not saying that's where you get to.
But if you go and look at 2026, 27 salaries, and you look at the guys who are making the money that Jaren is making, there's not a single one of them that needs somebody else to be their best selves.
I've looked at this.
I mean, that's the problem.
And Cat is a guy that some would say, but if you look,
but he's going to give you 20.
He's going to give you, and the 12 and a half rebounds. I think it was that he averaged last year.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I'm not saying that there are flawed players ahead of him, but I'm saying
some people throw Cat at me just to point your thing at. You like to have a center beside. It's not. He gets the 12 and a half rebounds
regardless.
That's different, right? Different than Jaren.
The other thing here to consider is just timeline, right? Because if you were to move off of Jaren, then you have Ja, who would be, by the time you get the full returns of the Desmond Bane trade, it's going to be 28, 29. And then those players are going to have to develop a little bit to have the full amount of pieces around him.
Yeah.
So if you're going to move off if you're going to make a trade like that, like for a Jaren, you better get some guys that can play right now.
Absolutely. Oh,
because you
maybe.
can't
Yeah.
keep pushing the
No,
timeline
I'm with
further
you.
down the
Oh,
line.
Ja's not going to take that, to your point. Like Ja ain't waiting around that long.
Well,
You know what I
it
mean?
feels like if you trade
So on
Jaren,
more guys to
you're just
develop.
starting over. Like,
Well, I'm just saying, to his point, if you trade Jaren, you better get something that can play right now next to Ja before he asks for out of here. Hey, I can't keep waiting. I'm in year 7. Back to your point, right? Ja's not going to keep being patient for you put guys around him and wait to develop a new crop of guys. To Drew's point, I agree. If you did decide to trade Jaren, you need players that could go right now.
Yeah, you need guys that can play.
I agree with that completely.
You can't wait for Ja to be 31 and then 32 and expect that he's going to be what he was when he was 25.
Exactly.
That's just like, you can't do that.
Like I said,
we're
it's
already
not
seeing
time.
today, like the reckless abandon that he once played with was an advantage.
Well, I don't want him using it out there with a bunch of screws.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
He's not really using
Let's
it
say
at
that.
all anymore, though.
But to that point, that's why we didn't mind the off day. You know, for a guy we'd love to see every game. No, man, sit down.
Yeah,
I mean, you're already out there undermanned as it is.
Well, every player like that at some point has a has a point in their career where, whether it's D Rose, whether it's Russell Westbrook, whatever, where that their game fundamentally has to change. And I'm not saying that has to be right now for Ja, but it's coming sooner than people probably like.
Do you guys think that the number, like what the fans want the most, is just for Ja and Jaren to look like the stars again, and then you feel validated and you say, okay, we're going to continue this rebuild around them? Is that
Totally.
That's what you've always.
Do you
told
think
yourself,
that
right?
do you think that there's more? I think there's more so that those people. Do you think there's people in the other boat that are just like ready to move on?
I mean, have there been?
I don't know. I just don't see those
move on
folks out
two.
there. Like, I just don't see those. Like, I don't see that opinion anywhere.
Which one?
I see frustration
that they're just ready to. That they're just like blow it up, start over. Like, usually, sometimes fans do get to that point, right? Like with the Cubs, I can remember getting to that point a few different times. It's just like, blow it up, start over.
No, I just
don't think anybody. I haven't seen any opinions out there. Like, everyone that I see is just like,
Yep.
we got to get job right.
Well,
we got to get Jaren right.
That goes to your point about the loyalty, right? Most fans, I think, and maybe this isn't true for everybody, but I think most fans are in the stage of blaming Isolo. Most fans are in the stage of it's his fault. His system has ruined both of them, and until that changes, they can't be themselves. So I do think that's a stage of denial. Because unless the Grizzlies just made some kind of grave miscalculation on the guy, because I assume they knew exactly, everybody involved knew what this was going to be when the decision was made. I have to believe that Ja and Jaren and the front office. So unless there was a miscalculation, but I think right now the fan base is convinced that it's Thomas Isolo's fault.
I just wish so badly that Ja and Jaren looked right, and so we could just talk about how great Cedric Coward has looked. That's just what I wish. I wish so badly for that. Because he really is awesome. He's really awesome.
Yeah. The kid doesn't deserve a team that's checked out around him either.
I know.
The way how hard he's playing. Real quick, what are the chances the Phoenix Suns pick that we've all talked about is not a lottery pick? And what happens with that?
High.
Do you get the higher of Phoenix and
okay, so there's 4 teams involved.
Right.
Washington, Phoenix, the Magic, and the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies will get the middle 2 of those picks, unless the Wizards are outside of the top 8. So obviously they're 1-11.
Yeah.
They're not going to be. So they're going to be in at least in that 5-6 spot. So I think that there's a decent chance that the Phoenix pick is indeed not a lottery pick when you consider what's happening, because you've got, the Clippers are a disaster right now.
They're a mess.
The Kings, you can't really feel good about, and they've got an older roster. You wonder if they're just going to try to move off of guys and get worse. The Pelicans, boy, that one's bad. The Mavericks, they may trade Anthony Davis. So I think Phoenix is Phoenix, who has no incentive
Man.
to tank at all, is probably going to be better than all those teams. Yeah, so we'll see.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. I really don't want to put you in a bad spot, but do you think everybody involved knew how much friction there could possibly be with Isolo, his style, and this roster, or do you think they overlooked that or didn't consider it, or I'm just because it's not a fit. It feels like at all.
Well, I mean, Ja was on the same page,
I
right?
mean,
That's
Ja-
where you
the
start with
players
that.
were
You
on
said
the same
they were with
page.
it, bro.
So
That's where you'd
they
start.
overestimated or underestimated.
I guess they were wrong, but like this is what they wanted. This is who they wanted.
Right. Let's see it with some shooting and at least Edie.
You know,
But I'm with it looks bad, John. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, and again,
It'll be time for that later.
Yeah, well, it's that the day of judgment it cometh.
But folks got to remember, Ja was on board. That's key in this.
Ja was on board. Yes, Ja was on board with Isolo, and look, he
Jumped ship.
and then I made that point online and got blowback. People saying, "Well, he has the right to change his mind, dude." It's like, yeah, he does. I agree. I agree 100%.
Ja changes his mind, as we've seen.
And the question just is, when and if that happens, what does the organization do? And I think that's the part that we're watching play out in real time, and it's not good. It's not good right now.
Bear down, Drew.
There we
Good
go.
things for Bears. Going to beat Vikings this weekend. There is joy there.
Yeah, no, I've been really happy watching the Bears. Caleb Williams is big time clutch, and he looks like a franchise quarterback, so I'm pretty dang happy about that. Kyle Monungai might be my favorite player nobody knows about still.
The new David Montgomery, I call him.
He is great. Yep. He is super fun. Runs like a bowling ball. I mean, it's amazing to watch how much the Bears culture has changed. I mean, it was a fun sports weekend last weekend for me, getting to watch the Bears pull off that comeback. Tide Hoops takes down St. John's. Alabama beats LSU. And then tonight, John, I'm sure you'll be dialed in. We got Bama and Purdue.
It's a big one.
Big one.
The biggest bargain in fun. I've taken a position on it. And I hate to do it, but I did bet Purdue +3.
Interesting. I was surprised Alabama opened as a 1.5 point favorite, and that went to 3.5 in just a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it touched 4.5. I think at top.
But Purdue's getting their best player back, right?
Yes, Trey Coffin-Ren's back,
Yes.
and I mean, I just feel like two All-Americans. How often are you going to be catching 3? And as you know, the Alabama basketball home court advantage just isn't that great.
The Alabama backcourt is
amazing.
Very good.
It is amazing.
Talk about two All-American. Alabama backcourt may also have
you're right.
that level of talent. I think
LeBaron is my favorite player in college basketball.
Yeah.
Like I literally love everything he does.
I saw a player comparison that compared him to Mike Conley the other day, and I could squint and see it.
I think he's a little shiftier than Mike even.
Yeah, young Mike.
Yeah.
I could see LeBaron being close to a 15 point per game guy in the NBA
But no, that makes sense. I mean, he's got I think his off the dribble game is a little better than Mike's, but he's got the floater, he's got the the vision. I mean,
we'll see. It's a fun game, and but yeah, no, I didn't mean to take us off Bears. Bears have been awesome.
Good, better, best, as you know. Good, better, best.
Never let it rest.
Is that the saying?
Don't worry about it. This is relevance on this side.
Yeah.
Inside stuff.
I'm just dealing with auto pen, Pete.
I'll give you some good props for still wearing the Raiders gear every single day.
Yep.
I mean,
I'm
do you feel embarrassed
to the soil
when you put it on in your house and still no one can see you? Do you feel embarrassed, or only when you go out in public?
What really because I was actually weirdly thinking about this like 3 weeks ago. What really struck me is that I've been wearing Raiders gear pretty much exclusively for like ever since I could like afford them, right? Whenever I got a real adult job. And like I can honestly count on one hand the number of times where someone has come up to me while I'm wearing this and said, "Hey man, that was a great game last night." Like it's always like that's embarrassing. You still rocking it,
Right.
Nobody ever comes up and says, "Man, that was an awesome win last night for you guys." No, it's just there. Those situations don't arise, and I buy the merch like a jackass. I'm the
credit
idiot.
to you.
I'm the idiot.
True fan.
That's right. All right, man. Thanks for coming in. And
Appreciate you, brother. Good to see you.
Yeah, of course.
we can turn the heat lamp off, Brad. The heat lamps can come off now that Drew's
Man.
segment is over. Let's hope for better days. Let's hope for better days, man, for everybody.